It has been decided Ernie Clement will be in the 2024 Home Run Derby.
You are Locked On Blue Jays, your daily Toronto Blue Jays podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jays. Thank you for making Locked On Blue Jays your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube by the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. This episode is brought to you by Booking.com. The right stay can make you a fan of any city, even if it's your rivals, especially if you're in New York like Braden just was. Book today on Booking.com on the site or in the Booking.com app. Booking.com. Booking.yeah. We're here. We're back with Skylar Peters. Braden obviously is he's having a personal day, just enjoying his time. Busy week for the boys, obviously. I'm not going to get into too much what he was doing because he didn't want to allude to that on the podcast, so I'll give my boy the benefit of the doubt. But Skylar, an interesting game from the Toronto Blue Jays. Not something you see on a regular basis. 10 runs from a Toronto Blue Jays squad that just doesn't usually have offense.
Yeah, happy to stay up and burn the midnight oil when the results like this, because last night I immediately shut off the TV, texted you boys, and then put my phone on Do Not Disturb and went to bed after the old walk-off wild pitch there. So this was much more like it. Nice big crooked number, 6 runs in an inning, and 10 runs for, I think, maybe the third time all year that we got at double digits. So this is a fun one.
Yeah, it's exciting to actually watch good offense, good baseball. Chris Bassitt struggles a little bit. Before we do get into it, I'm Carter First. It's obviously Skylar Peters. You can follow us on Locked On Blue Jays. My Twitter is Carter First 2. Skylar Peters is, I can't even see what that is. It's, what's your Twitter here?
Skylar A. Peters.
There you go, Skylar A. Peters. My 4 eyes can't even see that even. So, yeah, new glasses if you guys were wondering as well. Just an absolute mess this previous weekend. My brother's friends were staying here. My glasses just all of a sudden disappeared. So now I'm rocking the different spectacles. But anyway, we are posting YouTube Shorts, Reels, Instagram. Same thing. It's Locked On Blue Jays pretty much on any platform. We're going to be posting Twitters. We're always active on as well. So let's just get into it. I want to start with Chris Bassitt. I know we were talking about this a little bit off camera as well. Struggling immensely in the first 2 innings, to say the least. The command just wasn't there. 63 pitches in 2 innings. Usually not going to play. I was pretty worried that Bowden was going to have to come in. Probably was going to have to throw 3-4 innings with Chris Bassitt throwing again 63. But then Chris Bassitt just, turns a leaf, finds something in the next 3 innings, only throws 36 pitches over those next 3. Patrick Bailey, I think, was the only one that reached base. He had that it's pretty much a swinging bunt. Alejandro Kirk throws a ball up the first base line. Get into that later. But how'd you feel about Chris Bassitt's performance today?
Yeah, I don't get too concerned when Chris Bassitt, has a struggle in the first or second inning. I mean, we saw it in Seattle. Maybe the West Coast time zone is not so good for him. Not a Pacific zone start on time type of guy, because he allowed 3 runs, obviously, in the Seattle series in his start there on Sunday. The good news is, for some reason, the boys seem to come with the bats whenever Chris Bassitt's on deck, because clearly last Sunday they got those 3 right back, and it was 3-3 in the blink of an eye. And obviously tonight they put 10 on the board behind him. And you can never say it enough. He's the most professional player on this Blue Jays team, and in terms of a guy that can just show up and fight. Didn't look like he had it early on. A couple of base runners, some early runs. They jump out to that 2-0 lead. And, when it was 3 hits last night and all 3 of them kind of came home on an early Ernie Clement homer, you were thinking, how are we going to get through this game and try to squeak out a win? Obviously, we didn't have to worry about that as this game wore on. But, just a professional effort from Chris Bassitt. Ended up getting some ground balls. It's not the strikeouts that are going to get him out of a jam, get him through 5 innings when he struggles through. But, 63 in the first 2, 99 to get through 5. And turn it over to the bullpen was a really impressive performance. I was really happy with that.
Oh, and that's huge for a Toronto Blue Jays bullpen. That's just struggled immensely this entire season. Chris Bassitt has to be the most adaptable player on the Toronto Blue Jays. They're probably one of the most adaptable players I've seen on the Toronto Blue Jays roster in a very long time. A guy that earlier on the year where there's some injury troubles, Chris Bassitt has no problem taking a day rest, taking 2 days rest. He'll go after 5 games or 5 days, 6 days, 7 days. You can throw Chris Bassitt pretty much wherever. You can probably throw him onto the bullpen. He'll find a way to make it work. So just an unbelievable bounce back from Chris Bassitt. Just makes it a manageable start. Nothing crazy. I'll read the stat line here quick. 5 innings pitched, 5 hits, 4 walks is kind of where I was concerned. Obviously, the command just wasn't there. Was throwing a ton of balls today. 3 earned runs, 6 Ks. Just, keeping the Jays in the game. That's exactly what you want to do. Had a little bit of PTSD from obviously yesterday or 2 days ago that game as well. It's kind of the same thing. Ernie Clement, 3-run bomb, 3-2 game. just I was not ready for it again. I don't know if I would have been able to actually make it onto this podcast if the Toronto Blue Jays would have found a way to lose a game even closely similar to the way they lost that first game of the series. But let's get into it. I teased in the intro. Ernie Clement, 7 RBIs in his last 2 games, 2 back-to-back games with 3-run home runs. Guys, he's going off. Absolutely insane. A guy that is making the most of his playing time, obviously with IKF being out, Bichette being hurt, Daulton Varsho now being hurt, Kevin Kiermaier being hurt. It's going to be a lot of playing time on this Toronto Blue Jays squad, whether that's Buffalo Boys, whether Nathan Lucas might be getting the call up here. That's something we'll have to talk about. But Ernie Clement, you're pretty much carrying the Toronto Blue Jays to this win, starting the momentum, honestly leading them to a 10-run day. But Ernie Clement is exactly the guy the Toronto Blue Jays team needs. Again, you should not be relying on to win you baseball games necessarily, but a guy that's an off the bench back and pretty much play wherever in the infield. I think 261 on the year, over 700 OPS. For a bench bat, I'm taking that every single day of the week, and Ernie Clement has been one of the only positives we've gotten from the Toronto Blue Jays offense this entire season.
Yeah, and a guy that had to play the hot corner in a big park, and he made some good plays too. Except for the one where he almost took out our starting pitcher on that fly ball shallow on the left side infield. I thought Chris Bassitt was going to have to exit the game early as he ran into the pitcher, but they picked each other up real quick after Bassitt made that catch, and obviously not surprised that Chris is fighting for that fly ball either. But yeah, what can you say about Ernie Clement? I mean, that was a straight Braden Owasco 7-iron golf swing that he sent into the left field bleachers, probably 15 feet away from where he put it 24 hours before on another 3-run dong. So, and the fist pump as he looks toward the bullpen between rounding first and second is just electric. And, obviously you probably want bigger names to be the guys doing that. But I think if you got a guy like that, a guy that didn't start the year on this team, but he can, provide some energy. He's going to play every day, obviously, given the injuries that we seem to have and that we're going to get into a little bit later in the podcast. To be a spark plug and a bit of a catalyst at a time when other guys are swinging hot bats, and some of the big names like Vladdy and George Springer obviously are pulling their weight over the last couple of weeks. It's nice to see a guy that you would expect to not even be here. If this team was probably better off, and B, if he was here, not playing every day, buried in the order, all of a sudden to be the catalyst for the offense over the last 2 nights is really encouraging.
100%. And I don't know if you saw the broadcast with Ernie Clement quote at the end, but you brought up the Braden Owasco golf swing, and that is a great transition into this quote. So Ernie Clement was being interviewed after the post game, and they asked him, how'd you get to that low changeup? And he goes, I think I have to give credit to the golf that we played earlier this week on the off day. We golfed for the boys, and I think that definitely helped on that swing. It kind of looked like a golf swing. The guy's been being thrown a ton of breaking off-speed pitches because he's so good at hitting the fastball. He's starting to mash these breaking pitches as well. Like you said, pretty much the exact same swing, pretty much in the exact same part of the ballpark in a big spot of the game. Again, just everything felt like the first game up until that point. You go down early, you kind of climb back. Ernie Clement 3-run bomb. Thank God they were able to switch it up. But you mentioned George Springer. Got to get into this guy as well. Just another George Springer is looking like George Springer. You honestly just love to see it after a horrendous start to the season from this offense. Starting to look a little bit better recently. George Springer, another 2 doubles today, 3 RBIs. I mean, that's our leadoff hitter. You got him, Horwitz, Vladdy. I say it on the podcast all the time. I want to see that being our 3 for the rest of the season. Unless somehow Vladimir Guerrero Jr. gets traded. Again, don't think it will happen, but we'll get more into that a little bit in the second segment. George Springer, a guy that might have to play center field now with all these injuries. Just a guy that you're going to have to rely on, a guy you're going to have to rely on in the future. He's not going anywhere. He's making $25 million a year. That may or may not look good by the end of the year, next following seasons. But again, we'll focus on George Springer, the good things right now. Just an unbelievable stretch from George Springer over these last 3 weeks.
Yeah, and he's swinging the bat well. He's also using like elite base running speed, good instincts, and I think a lot of it has to do with playing right field. He's getting used to that. It's a big change for a guy that's used to playing center every single day and, being a leadoff hitter every single day. All of a sudden you're batting 6th, 7th in the order. And, I don't blame a guy, that's a veteran in this league and obviously has played more than 10 years for struggling. I give a lot of credit to George for doing what he's doing and adjusting. Also, John Schneider for putting him back in that leadoff position, giving him that confidence and saying, we don't want to take him out for the rest of the year. George belongs as the number 1 in our order. And obviously he's showing it. I don't know if anybody's batting better than him over the last 10 days in Major League Baseball. And he continues to show it every night. Would have loved a little bit quicker trot on that really long bases clearing double in the big inning, because he thought that one had gone yard for sure out of Oracle Park. But I mean, To get 2 runs on top of a big inning was awesome. And all the credit to him. If he does end up having to play center field tomorrow, which I think is probably the strong possibility, be a big adjustment in a big ballpark. There's a lot of extra running out there probably for him, but you got to love what this guy's doing at the plate right now.
See, I don't even want to put this in existence. I'm going to knock on wood right now, but George Springer in center field has had some injury concerns as well. Hopefully that's not a problem in the future, because our outfield depth is insanely thin, especially if Kevin Kiermaier and Daulton Varsho are out for any sort of extended period of time. David Schneider will be probably our just everyday left fielder. Nathan Lucas has been raking in AAA, so just you might as well pull up the entire system. It's already on the Toronto Blue Jays roster, so it's not really going to be too much of a change there. But like you said, George Springer's been ridiculous. I'll go over his last 15-day stats. He's 19 for 52, obviously 19 hits, 19 RBIs, 5 home runs, hitting 365, 441 on base percentage, a 750 slugging. Just a complete ball player when he's on hitting. He's, again, elite base running skills this year, probably the best base running I've seen him do in his Blue Jays tenure. He makes diving catches like an insane amount. You could just every series, it seems like he's making one spectacular catch. That's one thing I guess we have a positive to look at with this outfield. So you have Kevin Kiermaier, Daulton Varsho, Springer. Again, defense, I think at this point, we don't really care about defense anymore. We rather have Addison Barger playing every single position if he was going to hit like George Springer was. But George Springer just doing what he is doing at the plate is definitely a sight to see. Another guy I want to shout out, it's weird talking about offense this much actually, but Alejandro Kirk is another guy that just seems to be raking the baseball over his last 4 games. 15 at-bats, 8 hits, a 533 average, a 1,167 OPS, 5 RBIs. Another guy that's starting to come into his own a little bit here. Hopefully this isn't streakiness with Alejandro Kirk. We haven't really seen anything from him since that 2021 season. It hasn't been great. 2022, he looked okay as well, but last year was horrendous. The start of this year has been horrendous. But over this last little stretch, Alejandro Kirk starting to fit for him as well.
Yeah, and a really big night for him. Obviously, Danny Jansen, everyone's going to remember what he did in the 9th inning, or what he didn't do, I guess, in terms of defending behind the plate and allowing the Giants to win that ball game. So obviously this was Kirk's game. He was going to get the start at catcher, and continued what he started in Seattle with the hot bat. This guy loves the sea air, I guess, on the West Coast and this late time zone. And he's kind of the anti-Chris Bassitt. He's been raring to go ever since the boys stepped foot at T-Mobile Park back in Seattle. So love what I've seen over the last 5 games, 6 nights from him. Maybe more consistency. He's definitely the Blue Jays' number 1 option at the catcher position right now. There's no doubt in that. Just given the way that Jansen struggled, at the plate and behind the plate a little bit, as we saw last night. So, a little more consistency. I think John Schneider's got to give Kirk his reward for the way he's played over the last, week or so. And it's good to see guys that, when they were coming up earlier in this season, 6th, 7th in the order, you were, being surprised if they were hitting singles. All of a sudden, Alejandro Kirk's, hustling for doubles. And that's a sight to see. We all know that. So really, really pleasantly surprised with the way Kirk's picked it up. One of the last guys I would really expect to be playing as well as he is right now.
Yeah, and Kirk is only 25 years old. That's there's obviously going to be this huge notion with the Gabriel Moreno trade. Who is better? Again, that's up for debate. They're still both very young right now. It's looking at Gabriel Moreno. But if you can get any offensive production from Kirk with how good he is at framing, he is a very good defender, as much as people don't say that he is. The one knee almost got him today. He had a ball in the dirt that he kind of just stabbed at with the glove, just popped it up with bases loaded. Again, didn't really matter because he actually scored runs in the game, but just something to look for with Alejandro Kirk. Other than that, today, the bullpen, when you're up 10-4, I don't really care what the bullpen does. Bowden Francis gave up a home run to Matt Chapman. Congrats, Matt Chapman. You can't hit with runners in scoring position. You can in high leverage. But, man, if you're down in a blowout game, you might be the greatest hitter in all of baseball. But saying that, we got a bunch more to talk about. So we're going to get into some injury updates. Obviously, a ton happened in today's game for injuries. The trade deadline, a couple articles came out about what the Blue Jays' direction might be for this upcoming trade deadline. So we're going to get into all that coming up. Today's episode is sponsored by Stitch Fix, which with Stitch Fix, you get a stylist who understands your style, size, and budget. They do all the shopping for you. It's the easiest way to update your wardrobe this season. I give my stylist my size, style, and budget preferences. I order boxes when I want and how I want. No subscription is required. They send 5 just for me pieces plus outfit recommendations and pro styling advice. I keep what works and I send back the rest. Stitch Fix makes it all so easy. I don't like to shop and they save me that time and effort. Plus, I get outfits that make me look and feel really good. One of the best things about Stitch Fix for me is that if I don't love something, you can send it right back. Shipping, returns, and exchanges are always free on this website. Stitch Fix gives you the style that makes you feel as good as you look. Now is the best time to get started on stitchfix.com/MLB because you get $100 off. That's $25 off your first 4 fixes for a limited time only. That's stitchfix.com/MLB for $100 off. Stitchfix.com/MLB. Must redeem within 7 days of sign up. Offer does not include kid fixes. Here on Locked On Blue Jays, we pride ourselves on getting you the latest news for your team, whether it's the offseason, the draft, spring training, or the playoffs. It's year-round. You know what else is year-round? Collection season. Just because tax season is over doesn't mean the IRS will stop coming for you after your unfiled taxes. The IRS can garnish your wages, levy your bank accounts, and even seize your property. Don't let the IRS target you. Let the licensed professionals and tax experts at Tax Network USA go to bat for you. Over 14 years of experience and an A+ rating by the Better Business Bureau, Tax Network USA has saved their clients over $1 billion in tax debt. Whether you owe taxes, have complicated matters that require tax planning, or finally hit that parlay this season and need help correctly filing, call 1-800-549-1000 or visit tnusa.com/lockedon. See the link in the episode description below. All right, so let's get right back into it. I think we got to start with a little bit of the elephant in the room, you can say. The injury bug has come down on the Toronto Blue Jays. Very unfortunate things to see. Bichette, Daulton Varsho, and then probably Kevin Kiermaier. Not a lot about Kevin Kiermaier at the end there, but you get a Patrick Bailey home run. The home run doesn't really matter, so I like kind of unfortunate that he got injured on this play. But Kevin Kiermaier's a baller. He's going to try to save every single run he can. Jumps at the wall, kind of has to do a twist jump and hits his left side. I don't know if he was grabbing at his left hit, his left glute. Could be anything like that, but that is Kevin Kiermaier's problem. Hopefully he is not out for an extended period of time, but Kevin Kiermaier is another guy that just has had some injury problems, is getting up there in age. Hopefully he's not out for a crazy period of time. Like I said, the depth on this team for the outfield position, not exactly great. So Daulton Varsho will get into as well quickly. Left knee contusion on a weird diving play, trying to avoid a tag from Logan Webb. Just probably a bruise, probably out. I don't know. Again, you look at it, this is a weird time for injuries because the All-Star break is coming up. You got one more game, and then you have a D-back series, Tiger series, and that's the All-Star break. So again, and then you're looking at the position of the Toronto Blue Jays. They haven't openly said yet that they're going to sell. They just said if this is the direction it's going, if this how the season continues, they are going to sell, but they still want to be able to turn it around. So going to be interesting to see how they play that. And you get Bichette removed with a right calf soreness. He's getting an MRI tomorrow. That's the same injury Bichette had earlier in this month, at the end of June, I should say. Too many injuries, man. For a team that just can't hit already, it's tough to get 3 injuries in the same baseball game.
Yeah, and I guess the one thing I will say, while Bichette's kind of fresh off the plate with what you were saying, is Leo Jimenez had a pretty good game at the plate and defensively. Obviously, he had the tough play in the 9th last night, or I guess 2 nights ago, if you're listening to this now on Thursday morning. That ended up helping to kind of cost the Blue Jays the game, but really bounced back for a young player. He's played less than half a dozen MLB games. I really like the way he responded in place of Bichette for a guy that, didn't expect to play in this game at all. It is the outfield that's definitely concerning all of a sudden. It's probably Nathan Lucas time. It might be Carter First time. I don't know what your wheels are like out there. There's a lot of grass at Oracle Park, man. And you got to get down on a plane pretty quick. But this is getting pretty greasy. Kevin Kiermaier obviously stayed in the game. He's a gamer. John Snyder said as much in his post game. It's tough because you have the getaway day tomorrow, and then all of a sudden it's an early start coming off a night game. But at some point, you need guys to play baseball games. So I wouldn't be surprised if Kevin Kiermaier is in the lineup tomorrow. Obviously, you're not going to see that from Bichette, which is very concerning. Will you see him before the All-Star break? Will you see him again as a Toronto Blue Jay? These are all questions we're going to have to start asking. And, of course, the second year in a row where Bichette is battling the injury bug right around the trade deadline, right around August. Hopefully Paul DeYoung's not coming in to replace him this time, but you never know. As far as Daulton Varsho goes, this is a guy that plays hard. That's a tough play. You can't take anything away from, I think, what either Logan Webb or Daulton Varsho did. It's tough to see a knee contusion on the fastest player on our team and one of the fastest players in the league. Hopefully he bounces back, and I guess the hope for him, maybe this day off tomorrow that he's probably going to get is good enough to see him return for game 1 or game 2 in Arizona, because Lord knows, even though the bat hasn't been going for Daulton Varsho, everything else he does, whether it's on the base paths and certainly whether it's in left field or center field, is what we need from him right now.
Yeah, one of the best fielders in baseball. Definitely tough to have a knee injury. You got to worry about the speed. You got to worry about just his movement in the outfield. But a guy that could be seeing some playing time as well is Stuart Baroa, who just doesn't get at bats. Simply, that just hasn't happened, I don't think, since he's been called up. Been pinched around a couple times, but again, you look at an outfield, George Springer, David Schneider. I'm just going to assume that David Schneider's your left fielder. Like I don't see anything else happening, because a guy that has played really good in left field, I don't have any problem with that. Tracks a great ball. Made a really good catch and foul territory too. Another Ernie Clement almost collision, where he just kind of shoves the glove out there and stabs at it. Does make a nice catch. Like you said, Nathan Lucas would be an option there. Look at your shortstop. Leo Jimenez looked really good today again. He hit a double into the gap, 104 exit velocity. I love to see that. Barrels up a baseball. Does have a very good eye as well. Like I said before, I'll say it again. Just bring up everyone on the Buffalo team. Will Robertson sitting down there. Paul Maggiani sitting down there. Nathan Lucas. You might let's just make it the Toronto Bisons at this point.
Well, careful what you wish for, because I think in about 2 weeks there might be no other options. We might have a lot of draft picks and guys that are 3 years away, and all of a sudden it will be the Toronto Bisons out here playing, depending on what happens at the trade deadline. So, we'll see for sure. But there are some options at least. Addison Barger's another guy too that can get some reps in right field, if need be. It's not going to look pretty. It's not what Blue Jays fans want to see, especially a team built around defense. And, there are hard hit balls served off these pitchers. And there's been a lot of them in this series, whether the Blue Jays are at the dish or the Giants. I have a lot of confidence in those three guys out in the field, David Schneider included, that they're going to make a play. But if we have to really shift the lineup around tomorrow, that might not be the case.
See, at least with these Buffalo prospects, though, these guys that are younger, like it's like when we play beer pong on Saturday. You got the old dogs playing, the young guns coming in. They just clean house. That's exactly what's going to happen with this Toronto Blue Jays team. Yeah, but you look at Kevin Kiermaier, that injury, it's tanking the trade stock. What are we going to do with Kevin Kiermaier? Nobody wants an old injured guy. So, hopefully he is okay. Obviously, that's a joke. I don't want anyone on the Toronto Blue Jays to be injured. Kevin Kiermaier isn't hitting that well. Obviously, a great guy, great defender. But it's a good opportunity to kind of transition into these trade talks. So we got an article here that pretty much said exactly what everyone was thinking, that Toronto Blue Jays are going to be sellers at the deadline. So looking at the Toronto Blue Jays playoff odds, this was when they were 41-50. They had a whopping 1.7 chance to make the playoffs. Maybe they'll overcome the odds. Maybe we'll buy a lottery ticket, hit that as well. But the obvious sellers on this team is Yusei Kikuchi will be the leading one. Yimi Garcia should be coming back from an injury soon. Justin Turner is linked here as well. Kevin Kiermaier, Danny Jansen, and Trevor Richards. So again, a lot of pitchers on this team. That's where the Blue Jays excel. They have a lot of pitchers. Justin Turner, not really playing a position, easy guy to fill. Kevin Kiermaier, again, the guy that's not necessarily playing every single day. So when you're looking at it from a positional, fielding base, these trades don't affect things that mightily. Again, your DH spot does open up. That probably just has more opportunity for Spencer Horwitz to play every day, which he probably should be playing every day anyway. Then you have Vladdy, then you might be able to go into the system. Nathan Lucas might get some more playing time. You'll be able to play Leo Jimenez more. Then obviously the Bichette injury is where you got to start kind of throwing things around. But back to these trade deadline stuff. Who do you see being moved at the deadline? Obviously, they should. I think, in my opinion, it's where we've kind of been on the podcast. You want to get something for your assets. You have the 24th ranked prospect pool in all of baseball. You have pretty much every prospect that you're going to see up in the major leagues already. There isn't much more down there. So I'll throw over to you. Who do you see being moved? Which ones are your favorites of being moved? Do you see all 6 of these players being moved? Just give us your opinions here.
I don't know how it's going to shape up and what guys are going to go, what guys aren't. I think if we get 2/3, 4 out of those 6 guys moved, I think that's a pretty solid trade deadline for Ross Atkins and company. I'm just not sure there's going to be a fit materializing for all 6 guys and a return that, this team's going to want. At some point, if you're going to gut a lot of your veteran talent and, your talented players and guys that have shown up at times throughout the season, you do need, we can't have a AAA team out here finishing out the rest of the season. You do need ball players to lead a team. And does it mean a lost season for a 39-year-old Justin Turner? Maybe. He's not ring chasing at this point, I don't think. He didn't come to Toronto expecting to win a World Series. I think there was something about the dollar signs on the end of that contract that probably had him coming to this city. So I think at the end of the day, if you get 4 out of 6 gone, I think Garcia, Richards, Kikuchi, the arms for sure have to be the guys that go. Kikuchi's going to net you, if you're looking to improve from 24 in the prospect pool rankings, Kikuchi's the guy that's going to get you there, especially after what we saw clearly last night out and with the career high 13 Ks. So, dealing a hot hand, a lefty, a guy that throws hard and throws hard all night is going to be the guy that gets you the biggest return. It starts there for me. And yeah, I just think if there are some moves, I think most Blue Jays fans will probably be pleased, because a lot of us right now are expecting less than we probably deserve in terms of trying to improve this ball club over the long term, because clearly, this is pretty much a lost season in terms of 2024. So 4 out of 6 is probably the number that'll do it for me.
Yeah, for me, best case scenario is that you probably move 5 out of these 6 guys. I think I want to keep Danny Jansen. I don't know if I can fathom seeing Alejandro Kirk play behind the dish night in, night out. So Danny Jansen would be a guy that I would want to bring back. If you can get rid of Kevin Kiermaier, great. But even if you do, what are you going to get back for him? He's going to be a defensive replacement on a good team. He's not going to have everyday starting stuff. Justin Turner's another guy that he can be useful somewhere, definitely with the experience, the playoff experience, has won rings before. Does know how to do it. So Justin Turner is a guy that can be moved, but you're right. The big 3 are Yusei Kikuchi, Yimi Garcia, Trevor Richards. But then the discussion is, who are you going to throw in this bullpen? Like, some of these guys that are being pulled up, it's like, I was just hearing of them this year. You heard maybe some rumblings about them last season. But for the majority of this, like, you're going to be relying on, like, Zach Pop might be your closer by the end of the year. Like, that's kind of where we're at, which would be absolutely insane. But again, when you have a lost season for the Toronto Blue Jays, for a team that has said openly that they want to retool, rebrand, it's not the worst thing if you want to get rid of some of these bullpen arms. And sorry, a little break here, but special guest on the podcast decided to actually show his face for once in his lifetime, showing he cares a little bit about the brand. Brandon Wasco is back from his personal day and decided to not go take the full day off. Just had some bank time, didn't use all of it. So he's back. Welcome back, Brandon.
Thanks. Yeah, I stopped in. I figured this was going to be done by this late at the night, so I wasn't sure if I had to worry about it. And I come back, and you guys are still in the episode. So I'm like, well, let me jump on. Let me hop back in, talk some Blue Jays. Can't miss a day. That's just ridiculous, apparently.
Well, it's just it's if you care. That's just what the people want to know, if you care, and it's still up for debate. That's why we were at 27 minutes in, and we were talking if Brandon Wasco cares. Actually, haven't talked a single thing about Toronto Blue Jays baseball yet. But
this guy says this missing a Thursday episode because I'm too ill.
I mean, I could have sounded like I smoked cigarettes for 35 years, but I don't know if the people would have wanted to listen to that on this podcast. But we'll kind of get back to what we were talking about. So, Skylar, I did say that I would like to see 5 out of the 6 guys move. Just overall thoughts, a little bit of a wrap up here on that.
Yeah, well, you were alluding to it before this guy rudely interrupted his own podcast. But, I mean, the bullpen is going to get real thin if we start making some moves out of the pen, obviously, with Yimi Garcia, with Trevor Richards. I just took a look at Eric Swanson's minor league stats this year, and his ERA is a full point worse than it was with the Toronto Blue Jays. So I'm not really sure who's coming up. Like, is Aaron Sanchez ready to get off the temporary inactive list and, turn it back to 2015? Because it's going to get pretty greasy. And I mean, it obviously everyone knows the direction of this team, and, finishing 5th in the AL East probably isn't the worst idea in terms of, restocking the draft cabinet and all that sort of things, but it's going to make for a tough watch for the last 2.5 months of the season. This is the way it's going to go, and you trade those bullpen arms, but unfortunately those guys are going to get you the biggest return.
Yeah. And just going off of what you guys were talking about, I sort of listed it in the last part too. And I mean, when we talk about the bullpen arms and trading some guys, the one thing that we have to look at is, are we trading some guys then for more bullpen arms to restock the bullpen? And then are we trading some of our good bullpen arms away as well? This team has to pick a direction on what we're trading for. And I think we've talked about this over the past couple of days with trading Kikuchi, and maybe you get a bullpen arm, or maybe you get a position player, or what direction they're going. And that's the problem right now. Nobody really has a clear understanding of where this team's direction is. Because, yeah, we're talking about trading Yimi and Trevor and all these guys on top of Kikuchi and some other guys. And if the goal is to restock the bullpen, why are we giving bullpen arms away? If the goal is to get more bats, then do that. But the conversation has been, get more bullpen arms. Then you don't trade Yimi Garcia and Trevor Richards away. This should be clear cut, but it's not. And because pieces have to be moved, it's going to be strange, and some guys are going to get a little bit sacrificed.
Well, and the problem with this team is that I think the fans have pretty much come to a consensus that this team probably should sell at the deadline. They should probably sell fairly aggressively. But you look at Ross Atkins and his job position. He trades away some of these big name players. You might as well just write his own, you might as well fire himself. At this point, he's not going to have a job at the end of the day. So now he's going for this retool, which, again, like you said, trade these bullpen arms. What are you going to throw out next season unless you sign a million bullpen arms in the offseason? Something that we'll have to look into. Maybe you find some diamonds in the rough like so many other teams seem to be finding. I mean, the Seattle Mariners have made Trent Thornton a decent pitcher. So, you got to find your diamonds in the rough. You got to find some guys off the street that are just going to throw gas. But this team, just the direction is something that we're going to debate probably for the rest of this entire season, obviously majorly up until the trade deadline. But this might be the AAA Toronto Bisons, as I said before you hopped on here. But saying that, we have another bullpen arm that we got rid of that is going to have the greatest Yankees career of all time, that being Tim Mayza. He's probably going to go out there, throw a 1.70 ERA, pitch against the Toronto Blue Jays. Somehow, he's a relief pitcher, but he's probably going to throw 5 innings. That's just how efficient he's going to be. But we'll get into more of that later. But before we do that, I just wanted to throw it over to the Locked On 24/7 streaming channel, Locked On Sports Today, or the Amazon TV channel's Fire app. Whatever you get your sports knowledge from, whatever you want to watch. Blue Jays baseball isn't that entertaining sometimes. You want to check out MLB, NFL, the major 4 sports, WNBA, a lot of drama going on there. Perfect opportunity to check that out. So we're going to get into the Tim Mayza stuff, Ricky Tiedemann updates, and it's a little bit of a series recap and a preview after this little short break here. This episode of Locked On Blue Jays is sponsored by Booking.com. Booking.yeah, with hotels, bed and breakfast, vacation rentals, resorts, and so much more on Booking.com. You might just find your perfect stay, even in your baseball rival city. It's looking like the boys are going to go to Target Field. The boys are heading to Minnesota for a series. We're excited to use Booking.com to find the most convenient spot to stay. We're still getting the best bang for our buck. Braden loves going on trips. This guy's just a trip guru. He might as well start his own blog with how often he goes out. So he uses Booking.com constantly to book hotels and enjoy the view from his penthouse suites. From hotels that look over stadiums to family-friendly resorts, Booking.com has so many choices across so many cities for your summer travel this MLB season. The right stay can make you a fan of any U.S. city, even your rivals. Book today on Booking.com on the site or in the Booking.com app. This episode is also sponsored by Game Time. If you've been following this podcast the last few months, you'll know that the Locked On Blue Jays boys love going out to sporting events. Whether it's the Blue Jays, for me, the Canucks, every time they play the Jets, the odd Jets game, and hopefully a Carolina Panthers game sometime in the near future. But hopefully they also do play better football for me to go out there. We use Game Time, we went to Toronto over a month ago. One cool thing about Game Time is that we could see our view from our seats from the app. For me, that was huge considering I've never been to the Toronto Rogers Center at that point. It was nice to see which views we like the best, where we wanted to sit, and how much money we want to spend on specific views for the game. And with Game Time, they ensure that you're getting the lowest price guaranteed. With how expensive everything seems to be nowadays, it's nice to know that Game Time is looking out for you. Take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, a little bit of an interesting episode from the boys today. Obviously, if you've noticed, we've shifted around if you're watching on YouTube, but that doesn't matter. We're still going to snap it around here, and we're going to start with Tim Mayza. Obviously, Tim Mayza, just a horrible year with the Toronto Blue Jays, a million ERA, one of the worst years I've seen from a Toronto Blue Jays relief pitcher in a long time, and we used to have Brad Hand, Adam Simber, guys like that. So with Tim Mayza, he's one of the Yankees. He's probably going to shove. That's just what's going to happen. The Yankees are going to turn him into the best pitcher of all time. But Braden, I'll start with you. How do you feel about Tim Mayza going to the Yankees?
This sucks. This was almost one of the worst places that this guy could go, just in the fact that he is going to hurt the Blue Jays at some point. That is just the Blue Jays' luck this season. They give up Tim Mayza, let him go, and he comes back and he's going to kill us. He's going to kill us at some point. It's going to happen. Book it. If there was a bet for this, for Tim Mayza's strikeouts against the Blue Jays the rest of the season, you hammer that over, because that's just how this season's going.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to start in AAA. I don't think he's going to stay there for long. We all know the Yankees suck right now. I mean, as much as we love ripping our own team for not playing very good baseball, the Yankees are playing far worse baseball, and everybody knows that. And they're not getting a lot of production out of their lefties out of the pen. So obviously, it's a position of need. I feel like every guy that gets DFA'd by the Blue Jays, I just expect to see them in pinstripes at some point. Obviously, it feels like most of our, former heroes, as I look at my Marcus Stroman poster that's just a little bit over here. The days gone by, boys. Here's Stroh right up there, I believe. Obviously doing his thing for the Yanks right now. So to see Timmy in pinstripes is going to hurt a bit for sure. But as a baseball move, and he was our longest tenured Blue Jay to this point. Guy that gave a lot to the community. I don't think anybody in Toronto has a bad thing to say about him. Obviously did not pitch near enough to the level that, is expected of him this year. But a guy that really found himself and contributed in big spots last year. I wish him nothing but the best. And hopefully it does come against the Blue Jays. But Braden, you're probably right.
Yeah, it's tough too, because exactly like you said, the Yankees love picking up ex-Blue Jays. Josh Donaldson hurt me to my very core. I was trying to buy all of Josh Donaldson's jerseys for every team he played on, and I have not brought myself to the point of buying the Josh Donaldson Yankees jersey, and I don't know if I ever will. It'll be the sad one that eludes my collection. But yeah, Tim Mayza, like you said, Skylar, not really anything bad that any Blue Jays fan can really say outside of, a bad season. But as a person, I think we saw nothing but greatness sort of from Tim Mayza. Great person, great teammate is what it seemed like. So I'm happy that he's going to hopefully find success somewhere.
Well, like that guy was the second longest Blue Jays tenured player other than Danny Jansen. I think he had the longest tenure in the major leagues. So a guy that it was tough to see go. You see him since like the 2015 team. He was like, again, on the team, not necessarily around, but he's been with the Toronto Blue Jays a very long time. Tough to see him go, especially, of course, with the New York Yankees. Definitely don't want him to succeed over there. But we all, I think, kind of know what's going to happen. This moves me into Ricky Tiedemann. Since this is just an injury episode, I'm just going to talk about a million injuries on the Toronto Blue Jays. But Ricky Tiedemann left his outing tonight with a AAA Buffalo after one inning due to left forearm tightness. I don't really care about the rest of this. This guy just can't stay healthy. He's one of those guys that he's so good when he plays, but he just can't log innings. The year before, I think he had a bicep injury. There was a shoulder injury as well. There was some other injury. He had 3 different ones, which made him miss a ton of time throughout the season. You want your prospects, your young guys to be playing baseball. Shout out to Elvis Martinez. But with Ricky Tiedemann, it's a little bit different of a situation here. It's tough when you have the injury bug, tough when you can't play. Again, not necessarily his fault, but it's definitely going to stifle his development.
Yeah, and the tough part about Ricky T is that guy is, like you said, absolutely made of glass, it seems like. He just cannot stay healthy. And for our highest touted prospect, this really, really sucks. It really does. And for a team with no prospects at the moment that are looking up, and like we talked about Blue Jays' future, Ricky Tiedemann was supposed to be the Blue Jays' future now. And he just can't stay healthy, can't make his way up. And Carter, I don't know if you still believe it. We sort of talked about Ricky T possibly making his way onto this Blue Jays lineup post-deadline, if and when the Blue Jays are not in the playoff hunt. And honestly, I just don't know if that's going to happen. I would like to see it, but with all the injuries, I could see them just trying to ride out the season with them, let him get to the off season and try to get healthy again, which is just brutal to say.
See, I was just going to bring that up. You got a Yusei Kikuchi trade that at this point just hopefully happens. I know I love Yusei Kikuchi, but you got to get some assets back. This would have been the perfect opportunity to bring up Ricky Tiedemann to see what he can do at the major league level for a team that's not going to be playing. Again, hopefully they are, but let's be honest, they're probably not going to be playing meaningful games down the stretch, September, October. Going to be playing October baseball. I don't even know why I'm saying that. I'm just used to the Toronto Blue Jays actually making the playoffs, not doing any damage in the playoffs. But with Ricky Tiedemann now, you trade Yusei Kikuchi. Obviously, Kevin Gausman could be on the move. Chris Bassitt. They have openly said that they're not shopping guys that aren't on expiring contracts. Well, Ross Atkins has lied to us before. I'm not really believing that. We'll have to kind of see what happens at the trade deadline. Just tough for Ricky Tiedemann not to be able to get his reps in, get the pitches in, and get some major league experience. But I'll move on. I'll go into some more positive injury talks. IKF, obviously with a knee injury, is resuming baseball activity today with some light running and throwing. So that was obviously yesterday. And then we have a Yimi Garcia update. Yimi Garcia his planned outing with the Buffalo Bisons was delayed due to a stiff neck, so he threw on the side instead. He's now scheduled to pitch today, the day the episode comes out, Thursday. If everything goes well, could return in Arizona. Nice to see Yimi Garcia get back again. A guy that should probably be moved at the trade deadline, but again, when you look at the roster formation, Braden hit it on the head perfectly. you want bullpen arms, you want to retool. You're going to need a million bullpen arms next season. You're going to trade your best bullpen arm of the season. That's something for another day. But Yimi Garcia, if you're going to end up trading him, you want him to be able to pitch. You want him to be able to showcase his talents so you can get the most in return for him. Other than that, I mean, we should be up 2-0 against the San Francisco Giants. Obviously, the game, it's one play. It's one inning. It's tough. We're going to move on. But God, did I want that one back. Braden, I just want to throw this one over to you. I already talked about it with Skyler. Matt Chapman home run today. Low leverage, 10-5 ball game, launches that ball in the left field seats. One of the best low leverage hitters of all time.
Classic Chapman.
That's great. Yeah, like I said, Matt Chapman to me is a gone thought. I don't even pay attention to him anymore. I know, and this is part of the reason, right? We got comments throughout the season talking that the Blue Jays should have brought back Matt Chapman, that they should have done it. They should have brought him and Whit Merrifield back, and we've got him, and we've addressed these comments throughout this entirety of the season. I don't care about Matt Chapman anymore. He's not that good. I don't care. IKF is maybe playing a slightly worse brand of baseball, probably a more consistent brand, just not as effective when he is on than Matt Chapman. And we're paying him a ton less. There's no question here. I don't care about Matt Chapman. I don't really want to talk about him anymore. We've done about 1 million episodes on him. We're going to leave it. As soon as this series done, I'm okay with not having to talk about Matt Chapman again.
Hey, but look at this stat line, though. The last 2 games, 1 for 9, 4 strikeouts, 1 home run. Come on. He's got to come back. What an outing from the kid.
Something about former third baseman. Those are Brett Laurie numbers. It's just eerie. And guys getting traded to a West Coast team. It's there's something about it.
Yeah, well, like we were saying before, the Toronto Blue Jays play a great brand of West Coast baseball. So maybe the fix with the Toronto Blue Jays is just start every game at the Rogers Center at like 9:30. Just wait 3 hours. Screw it.
Not Chris Bassitt starts, though. Chris Bassitt has to play at 6:07.
Yeah. No, Chris Bassitt can play a day game.
He's getting tired in his old age.
Yeah, that's what he needs. He needs more sleep. That's Chris Bassitt doesn't sleep enough for the night games. It's not fair to him and his not even old age. He's like 34 years old. But saying that, great outing from Chris Bassitt. But we're gonna move on, I guess, into the outro because we're already kind of been snapping around for 43 minutes here, and it is almost 1 a.m. These night games. If you're from Toronto watching these night games,
I'm sorry.
It's tough. It's tough out here. You got a tough stretch before this All-Star break, but I mean, hey, hopefully you're battling through it like we are. Sacrifice sleep for the Toronto Blue Jays. It is what it is. It's what we do out here. But saying that, thank you guys for watching. The likes, comments, subscriptions, everything is always much appreciated. We have noticed that about 68% of you guys are not subscribed. So if you're coming back, watching the videos all the time, might as well subscribe. It helps us out a ton and also keeps our podcast at the top of your page. Leave reviews on Apple, Spotify, whatever you guys listen to on your Spotify or your streaming platforms. Helps us out a ton with that as well. We're going to be going over a ton of trade deadline coverage. Hopefully the Blue Jays do make some moves, whether it's me, Braden, Skyler, Dow, whoever we can get on here. Hopefully they're released at times that work out for us, but our schedules are very busy. I think this is pretty much my only night that I didn't have anything today. Braden obviously had some personal stuff going on, and then Skyler has a busy schedule as well. Just kind of all over the place with work and stuff like that. So we're trying our best to get the best content out for you guys. But a quick recap. We don't have a lot of time because this episode is kind of already going long. Jordan Hicks versus Kevin Gausman tomorrow. Jordan Hicks, fireballer, the guy that's been on the starting rotation. Obviously, since he's been moved to the starting rotation, that fastball does not have the same zip on it. Is more made for longevity now. I think he's topping out at like 98, kind of averaging 95, 96 miles per hour. What are you guys expecting to see in that Jordan Hicks start today?
Well, I can't wait for the first Jordan Hicks, Davis Schneider at bat. I just think it's going to be hilarious watching a guy that has historically struggled with high heat and is not batting very well, even though he's kind of tried to bat through it. I think it's going to be very funny because obviously Davis Schneider is playing, probably every game up until the All-Star break with the litany of injuries that we have, especially in the outfield. So I can't wait for that first AB between Schneider and Hicks. But, this is a good battle, and I got nothing but respect for Jordan Hicks. A guy is 27 years old. He came to the Jays from the Cards with not a lot of command and a pretty high ERA, for a high leverage deadline acquisition. Came and lowered his ERA by a full point that second half of the season, turned into a starter, and he's done a pretty respectable job in his first full season of doing that. So I expect a tight battle tomorrow. I mean, this park's actually given up a lot of runs over the last 2 games, a lot of long and hard hit balls compared to what I expected coming in. So we'll see what happens because, obviously with Hicks throwing it hard, if the boys can put the bat on the ball, maybe we'll get another Ernie Clement 8-iron home run into left field, but I guess time will tell.
Yeah, I mean, Skyler pretty much covered everything. Nothing but respect for Jordan Hicks. I mean, he pretty much came in to the Blue Jay system, and everybody knew what the outcome was going to be. It was for that season to give the team help, and then you pretty much knew he was going to leave afterwards. It was exactly what happened, and he did it with grace, poise, and nothing but respect for our organization as well. So, yeah, I'm cheering for Jordan Hicks. Obviously, not today, but in the entirety of it, I'm a Jordan Hicks fan.
Yeah, it's just a tale of two players with you, hey? You got Matt Chapman on one end of the spectrum, and then you got Jordan Hicks, just a guy you mightily respect. It's just interesting how that works out pretty well for us here. But I already said, thank you guys for watching. We're going to be snapping around. A lot of trade deadline coverage, obviously podcasts throughout the week. We're not stopping. We're going to keep going up. We appreciate it. One more thing, Locked On 24/7 streaming channel, Locked On Sports Today, Amazon TV, Fire's app, whatever's more convenient for you. 4 major sports, WNBA, college sports, you name it. Ton of stuff going on right now. Perfect opportunity to catch expert analysis. But we will be talking to you guys tomorrow.